working, innovating, prototyping, and getting new ideas basically, and also working remotely instead of working from home, which has been a new trend with lots of remote working over the past years. So in practice, what does it look like? Well, you have most often a co-working space. You also have fab labs, which are basically shared workshops that enable people either to learn new skills, also for children from the school, but also for artists, entrepreneurs that want to prototype new devices. And instead of buying everybody their tools, the idea is here to share. So there's a common pool resource, which is the toolset here. It's also important part of these third places is education and training that can take place either informally through peers. We just ask people, okay, how can I use this machine? How does a 3D printer work? But it's also places of relay of universities and official specialized trainings. So you have to consider geography in France that some people live quite far away from cities, and that enables them to follow curricula all throughout their life and career without having to actually move to a city. So that the third place is actually enabling training remotely. And also, of course, you have a lot of community activities from the kitchen, cooking, the cleaning, but also decision making, governance, and try to upscale and finding business models to make this long term. Also a lot of services of general interest, such as post office locally in the countryside, in the mountains, where you have no more sometimes public services, while these third places are actually taking over this role. Now regarding legal forms, I think it's a little bit in common with most of them are associations, so a few cooperatives, although more and more are actually going towards cooperatives. We have two kind of cooperatives, most two in France, one more for services of public interest, and other ones more towards production of goods. Well, this is what a third place could look like. This is not so far from where I live. It used to be a house for the elderly people. So the idea is that this building 20 years ago would have been just destroyed because it was useless, or nobody wants to move there. So these people nowadays, they rehabilitate such old buildings, heritage sites, and together as an association, and they have refurbished the entire building with some external help and with friends and families to make this a third place with co-working, with apartments, rooms to welcome, for example, artists in residence. There's a strong cultural dimension also to these places. And also a little garden here, Fab Lab, and more convivial activities. From urban to rural, why? Well, this movement has started a lot in cities initially, but nowadays it's shifting more and more towards outside metropolis. Why? Is that people are realizing that a lot of people are moving out of cities. They want to have more nicer work and living environment, and they still want to be able to exert their professional activities and not having to always commute to a city. So they want to install themselves, ground themselves in a given place. And that's why we have more than 50% now of third places which are outside the cities. So you see per region more or less in red, some ones are outside cities. And this represents a lot of also employed people in the third places. Around 150,000 people are employed in third places. That was 2 years ago. I think now it's about almost twice double. That represented by then 2.2 million users as well. So a lot of people go there either for working, also for just an event, taking a coffee, meeting new people. Right? So to summarize a little bit what this does, TRU exerts sort of enhanced territorial entrepreneurship in the way that they stimulate local innovation and enable different publics to come together and have new ideas. Right? It's also a way to have guys activities, merging often economical activities with activities that have more social effects dimension. And that also opens up new opportunities for financial models or business models. This space obviously of experimentation and social innovation, because usually they are a bit out of the frame, out of the box thinking, right? relies a lot on voluntary contribution. And the center element is openness and conviviality, which is a strong driver for inclusion, but also offers opportunities of informal gathering that also plays a role for innovation, having new ideas, building up new enterprises. About the support, I will not go into the whole details of this now. I think we'll go a bit later on this. We just specify that we have basically national scale support that's been going on for the past 4 years now, roughly. And where I work in the Département de l'Isère, in the southeast of France, we had a powerful project for the 3 years. It was an envelope of 10 million euros. That was basically roughly 300,000 euros per project maximum that you have, both for investments and operating costs. And we observed that most of the projects ask for operating costs rather than investments. The second dimension of our role as entrepreneurs was to provide some first level engineering support. And if we didn't have enough expertise, then we would just redirect them to more expert people and also help them financially to get their consultancy services. And also, most importantly, we have helped build a network of practice for those places. And we also get some funding from the state to finance this network. And that also plays a role because you said I think in Antwerp that once the program closes then there's no more finance available for this. But this is one way to continue the movement because at some point the envelope is over or the politics don't want to move there anymore. Well, we need something to perpetuate the movement over time. So the network is a possibility for this. There's other support of course like from the European Union, different kind of investors clubs, also cooperatives for estates will help you buy estate or buildings, and many opportunities for territorial engineering incubators that help you build your project. So we were not, as Antwerp, contributing actively to building that project. We're just sort of an external facilitator. And this is the overview. Well, my hometown is here, that's where I work. Below the clouds. Yeah. Different shapes to be in a city like this or this. This is also all of these places I've been working with. We have supported them directly or indirectly. So yeah, so there's huge diversity of places, and here at the moment. You're welcome.
So we appreciate very much that you're willing to share your knowledge with us. So you both mentioned at some point that not all of these initiatives are cooperatives or develop into cooperatives. Yet we do see quite a growth of cooperatives also in the Netherlands. And that's why we have invited Mathilde to tell us a bit more about how this development is taking place in Europe and how does it work vis-a-vis these citizens' initiatives. Is that something you see across Europe from your perspective from International Cooperative Alliance or
hello everyone. Should I say yes? No.
You can say that. Yeah, we're going to more debate form on that.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. I am sorry I do not speak Dutch, but it is next on my to-do list to learn it. So yeah, my name is Mathilde and I am French as well, but I work in Belgium and I work for Cooperatives Europe, which is the European organization representing cooperatives in Europe at European level and represents like all co-ops like from all sectors. And just a quick introduction, we have members like in more than 30 countries, a bit also outside Europe. And as you mentioned, we're also at the European office of the ICA, which is the International Cooperative Alliance. Sorry, what's the question again?
Well, how do you see this development from the bottom up among citizens and the broader development of cooperatives?
Yeah.
Are a lot of these newer cooperatives, are these built by citizens or?
Yeah, no, definitely. They're all of these like bottom and citizen-led initiative. I'm going to speak from like the European perspective, but what we can see at European level and what I see in Brussels with institutions mentioned is that they're gaining a lot of importance and people are starting to like notice them more and more. They were always there. Citizen-led initiatives were always there, but the question is whether they're taken seriously or not. And what I can say is that while in paper it was always great to have citizen-led initiative and have bottom-up approach, they were not really seriously considered, or like for like such an amount of decades before. They were considered as very niche. For example, when I speak about cooperative, a while ago they were considered as very niche. People didn't really understand what it was. They didn't really understand that these like citizen-led solutions could be solutions to, I don't know, nowadays challenges, or like building communities and social cohesion and like the social services. And most of like our job nowadays, it's changing slowly, but it's to prove that we're actually serious actors and we're bringing solutions. We actually, bringing solutions to nowadays issues. And so, yeah, we're not just local, they're mostly local initiatives, but it's proving and talking about these initiatives as like, they're important and we need to talk more about them and we need to scale them up more and we need to put the spotlight in it and we need to put funding in it, we need to put policy, focus on the initiative and don't think about us and co-ops as like small, little, very nice organization here, but we're going to put them on the side and we're not going to work with them. So yeah.
How do you do that? How do you do that? That's my question. We have a lot of things organized, a lot of cooperatives, but then the next step, you do your capital.
Yeah.
What?
There's like so many things that we need to work on at the same time. You can't really address one thing because they're all very interrelated. You need capital, you need visibility, you need as well like appropriate laws and like adequate laws that don't prevent you or don't burden you when you want to create a co-op or even when you want to create an association or want to have like a collective. So all of these are like a big mix together. For the
great question.
Yeah.
I think we both have answered.
So for me at European level where I work is that our members are getting into Cooperatives Europe because we are like a network and we are allowed to speak from one voice to the decision makers at EU level, the institutions, the Commission, the Parliament, the Council. So one reason why they join is because we are speaking in one voice, so it's easier to spread the message, to bring the message from bottom to up. Okay, here's the issue, blah, blah, blah. And also to like bring the information down. So okay, there's this program if you want funding. The European Commission or like the European Commission is like publishing a call for this program and we're sharing information. And most of my work is representation and like talking about it. And the more you talk about it, the more it's going to be in the policies. There's a big, right now there's a big focus on social economy at EU level. They published an action plan and they're publishing calls for funding. They're publishing calls also, what I call it, a plan to push member states and countries to change their laws to make it easier for co-ops or associations or social enterprises to start to have an adapted taxation, to have less administrative reporting or burden or things to do when you want to start one. Sorry, I'm speaking a lot.
No. I think the point about the social economy is very important. Many of these initiatives here, I think, have a connection with social economy issues. However, if we look across Europe, we see that it varies enormously. Belgium recently introduced a new commercial law, which comprises also a new definition of the social economy, social enterprise, and there it has to be a cooperative. France has a public interest cooperative form. The Netherlands have a very broad form of cooperatives, which basically, well, you can put anything in it, but there's no specific corner for the social cooperative. So is it something that local government can include the other members as well? Is it something local governments want to work with a social cooperative? France has more experience, I think, in this with public interest cooperatives. I mean, actually working from a government perspective with these public interest cooperatives.
I have like a very like typical example, but it's kind of like the example that shows the way. It's like Italy has a very like strong culture of co-ops and especially social cooperative. And I think they established a law. It was like in 1991, so it's not recent. It was not 5 years ago. That allows public-private partnership with social cooperatives, because in Italy, historically, cooperatives are really good at providing social services, whether it's about education, whether it's about even cultural and museum management, or healthcare and health services. And so this law, I think it's like 381 or something. But this law allows basically the authorities, whether local, national, whatever level, to have special partnership and basically to fund cooperative into providing these services to the community. And this is like literally, it's like funding cooperatives and doing like these essential services.
It's a bit like what they're trying to achieve here in the Netherlands with BVM, but then without the cooperative side to it. But how does it work here in France?
Just to follow up on Italy, I think,
exactly.
that was in 2001. They inserted in the constitution actually the principle of subsidiarity, which enables the government to delegate some of the functions to lower entities, right? So that also gave a lot of more power or more opportunities for these cooperatives. And it's inside the constitution, so the legal framework enables this kind of movements. And now in France, we have several kind of cooperatives. The most one that we're working with as third places are what we call SCIC, or Cooperative for Public Interest or Services of General Interest, and the other one is for more production. Both are legally enterprises or companies, but they have to select one of the possibilities, and they have a commercial interest. They have to somehow make profit, right? But it still works as a cooperative. The question was about the interest of the state in cooperatives.
So the government really uses that form to enable these third places, for example.
Yeah. Well, there's been a strong trend for re-industrialization in France over the past 4 or 5 years, and they really rely strongly on the power, the bottom-up power, to do it at a local scale, right? Again, think about the scale of France. It's really large, and you have really empty space in the middle, and to prevent from everything being centered around big cities, which are already crowded with lots of innovation, research, while they want this innovation to be spread across. And one tool for this is those cooperatives, more bottom-up. So they really rely on this for this.
I have two more questions. Yeah.
Mevrouw, er is nog iemand anders die wil vragen.
Ja, er zijn al een paar vragen. So maybe we can switch to some questions. Your question first. You can talk in Nederlands.
Yeah. I wonder if you have is this a list available of these cooperatives in Europe? Is this public information or not? So if cooperatives want to work, if you can share information within Europe between cooperatives who are more advanced or more developed or have, like Italy or France, that you can learn from each other. So how can you contact these cooperatives? Is there a database or a public database you can visit, or what is it possible?
Yeah, completely. Like one of the point of also cooperative is like to connect like our members together.
Yes.
So the main thing that we have like our database with like all of our members. So our members, our national members are like usually federation, national association, or confederation, and then they have their like individual members and individual co-op in there. What we found was one of the very successful ways to connect were through projects. In my team, across Europe, we have Lorenzo, who is in charge of project manager, and basically it's constantly looking for European funding, money, and then he has a brain that works differently from me, and he knows everyone, he remembers everyone, And then he's like, oh, I'm going to collect this, this, this. And he managed to link all our members, whether they're like national federation or in particular individual co-ops on the ground. And then it's a word of mouth, because the more projects you do, the more funding you provide to the members. Now they want to be part of it, and then they talk to each other. It's a lot of connecting. So, yeah.
Can we first have this question? Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Stan Kerkhoffs. I work at Rijkswaterstaat. It's a public organization in the Netherlands. And we have a farm in Warsaw, and we are building up a third place. So I was very happy with your presentation. And well, we are setting this up, and it's a bit vulnerable still, but we do this with public money, of course. But we want to build this up, and I want to learn. You know, I want to learn from your experience, and I also want support from the European Union. So how can we set this up so that it's not only for in Oorschot and Eindhoven, but also for and not for the other, but also for Europe. So how can I help? Can I just talk?
Register collective. I can do anyone. It's very simple. He works there, by the way.
We work also at CollectieveKracht-Me.
So that's one way. The networking part is very important. And that's also why we set up in France. We set up a network, and we found this as the most efficient solution to share expertise and to enable connections. And the link is sometimes the most added value that we can bring to them. It's not just, okay, I give you some money. It's also, okay, maybe these people have done the same project. You can ask them how they did it. And that kind of knowledge for them is more important than simple subsidies in many cases. That's important. Second dimension I would say important is the acculturation of the ambtenars. So basically making them more aware of what cooperatives or tiers-lieux third places mean. What role can it play? What complementarity it can bring to the public policy? And that advocation role, purpose, is difficult to carry by a single individual citizen initiative. And that's why networks come in as a role to come together as one voice, a bit like the ICA. One voice coming to Europe, but also at a more local scale. Going to the local municipality, going to the province and say, hey, we exist, we bring added value to you. We want to work together with you because we are complementary. And sometimes we have the same purpose, the same goals, we just work different ways. And that needs to be taken into account by entrepreneurs, and they, like in Italy, they saw the advantage of it, and they went to it.
In the interest of all, there is a QR code here. You can click on it. You can simply register there. So yeah. But there's more questions here. So what I would like to do is collect these questions now, so that we can actually hear from each other what the thoughts are. Then we see what we answer with the group. So first, I have you. Yes, your question.
Yes, so mostly for our guests from Antwerp and
Maybe it's handy if you stand.
Sorry, yes. From the Beerswat. So I was wondering, so most of the policy all seems to be oriented towards the tricky foundational phase of getting cooperatives to work. Is there any, there's also the risk once it's running that it's sort of leaking energy, loses traction, people lose interest. Is there any policy in place to sort of cover that phase in the life cycle, if you want, of cooperatives?
Ja, mag het in Nederlands?
Ja, mag in Nederlands.
Ik ben dan Bas, ik heb een initiatief, coöperatief initiatief, wonen. En je merkt dat je over verschillende disciplines heen gaat. Dus niet alleen wonen, energie, ook sociaal. En hoe ga je die verschillende thema's met elkaar verbinden? Dus je merkt dat ambtenaren een eigen discipline of een eigen vak zeg maar beoefenen, maar hoe krijg je dan eenheid erin? En ook de tweede opdrachting is verwijs ik terug naar de introductie aan het begin van de dag, de laatste sheet, de schuivenzijde van coöperaties, over hoe zorg je dat het netwerk voor een grotere groep beschikbaar is. Dus hoe ontsluit je het netwerk en de kennis?